Welcome into the Stardom Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Steph McKinney, joined by Ashton Mitchell and Jacob Stevens. Guys, we're getting closer and closer to the start of football season. A little over 2 weeks at this point. You guys feel ready? We haven't done any of our drafts yet, but you guys feel ready for football to come back around?
Very excited.
It's getting real. It's getting real fast.
You can see my new background here.
That doesn't answer my
If
question.
you're watching on YouTube.
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm ready for our draft this coming weekend.
Yeah, big stuff. We got a cool new trophy. Really excited to see that come in. We got some updated stickers. We're going to do our live in-person draft again this year with our big board and our updated stickers for all the rookies and things like that to plop on up there when you make your draft picks. So, yeah, I'm getting really excited about these kind of things coming up. And even more excited to actually watch some football again. It's been a crazy year with COVID and everything, and I didn't think we'd ever get sports back, but it seems like it's starting to come back. We got some NBA, we got NFL on the horizon, we got some golf.
Come on, dude. Can you say baseball already? You know I love baseball.
Oh, I was talking about sports. My bad. Sorry. Yeah.
Whoa.
There's things like that as well on TV. But yeah, I mean, I really am excited to have football back. Today we're talking wide receivers. We're starting our wide receiver rankings. We're going to go over the top 24 over the next two shows. We're going to do our top 12 this week and our 13 through 24 on next episode. To be honest, guys, I was kind of surprised by our a little bit of dispersed rankings when it came to wide receivers. Some of us were really high on some people, and some of us were really low on others. But yeah, I'm interested to see y'all's opinions on some of these guys. I have a lot of questions for you all regarding your rankings. So I'll have to see if you have the feedback to back it up. You guys want to jump right into it?
I've got it.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Coming in at number 1 on the list.
Unanimous number one.
One's across the board. Michael Thomas. So let me ask you a question, guys. His finishes over the last 4 years. He's been in the league now 4 years. He's going into his 5th season with Drew Brees. His finishes over the last 4 years have been number 1, 6, 6, and 7. Never finished outside the top 7 receivers, even back to his rookie year. He's been absolutely dominant since day one. My question is, now Drew Brees has Emmanuel Sanders to throw the ball to, who has been a great wide receiver in the NFL for quite some time now. And you can make the argument that he's the best second wide receiver that Drew Brees has had since Michael Thomas has came into the league. Does that concern you at all? Does that worry you about Michael Thomas's production?
Well, for me,
Go ahead.
okay. Well, for me, I think if anything, it's actually going to make him a little bit more effective. He might not need as many receptions to get to where he is with with Sanders drawing some of that attention, hopefully anyway. So that's kind of where I see it going. I mean, Kamara's probably going to bounce back and maybe get a few more receptions here and there, but I think he's just too efficient. I mean, he had crazy stats last year. I don't expect him to be that high, but he was 70, 76 or 77 points or 67 points higher than the next person. So I think he'll be able to drop down a few points, still be just as effective and still be number 1.
I mean, I think he's going to take a negative regression in targets this year. I mean, last year he had over 31% of their targets overall. I mean, that's insane. That's insane.
They had 185 targets last year. That's a wild number.
Almost 150 catches. That's nuts.
Yeah, out of 581 total targets.
Yeah.
I mean, I
think
think
target share.
Yeah, it's a decent target share. I think he's going to see a decrease in that obviously this year, but I mean, even if you were to take, I mean, 25 is still rare, you know, and I could see him easily still getting 25, 28 targets. So even if Sanders comes in there, takes a few off of his plate, I'm still not worried. He's still going to be a number one receiver overall.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the range of outcomes for Michael Thomas is very, very small. I mean, he's going to be a top 5 wide receiver at the end of the year. I mean, he's just too big of a weapon in that offense for him to, slip anywhere past that in my mind. To me, Michael Thomas has always been so consistent as that, top guy because he does get so many targets. He does, and he like catches everything that's thrown to him. So that's why he's always been such an elite option. I don't really see that kind of going anywhere. I think Emmanuel Sanders is going to come in there and possibly open up the offense a little bit more for him. I agree 100% that I think those targets are going to slip. But, I mean, I don't see it slipping to the point where he's not still the number one wide receiver taken off the boards in drafts. So no doubt there from any of the three of us that Michael Thomas's production is going to slip.
I do have one thing to add.
Yeah, go ahead.
To support him not slipping. So when some of these QBs get a little bit older, some of the drop-offs can be very, very fast. And also injuries, as we saw with Drew Brees last year. But we got Jameis Winston there ready to step in and start slinging it in case anything happens. And who cares what he does, but he's going to be throwing it downfield, and Michael Thomas will be there for that as well. So that's just a little extra safety net for him.
Yeah, well, hopefully nothing happens to Drew Brees, but that is a good point to note. Let's jump into our wide receiver number 2, who I think has a little bit more question marks around. Davante Adams comes in as our consensus wide receiver 2. Ashton and Jacob, you guys have him as your wide receiver 2. I have him as my wide receiver 3. He was wide receiver number 24 last year on 12 games played. Why are you guys so high on it? Why do you see him? Why does he deserve to be wide receiver number 2?
Jacob, you want me to go for it?
I'll hop in.
Right.
Mainly, I don't have too much to add on it. Obviously, he's a very skilled wide receiver, and we've seen him be very elite over the past few years. And Stefan, I'm surprised you're the lowest on him because you were obsessed with Aaron Rodgers and just think he is the best quarterback there ever was. But I guess the main questions I have is, are they going to throw the ball as much as they used to and just kind of let Aaron Rodgers air it out? The game script kind of changed a little bit last year. But we saw this draft. They drafted no one else. Behind him is garbage. So it's him and Aaron Jones, and that's it. So that's why you got an elite quarterback and an elite wide receiver. There's no reason they should, as long as he stays healthy. Because last year, he had the turf toe. His toe basically fell off onto the turf, and he just couldn't get back from it. And it just kind of messed him up for a few games. And that was 12 games he was in, but he was still being bothered by it. So I think that finish last year was definitely just kind of out of the ordinary.
Yeah, I'm following up with that. I mean, based off his connection with Aaron Rodgers, there's really no other chemistry built the same with any other wide receiver than what he has with Davante Adams. And when Davante Adams is healthy and on the field, he's pretty untouchable. I have him up there just in the shadows of talent with Michael Thomas. And I think a lot of that has to do with his time on the field too. I mean, once he's fully healthy and has those bursts and create that separation, he's pretty incomparable. So I think with Aaron Rodgers coming in with a chip on his shoulder this year, the chemistry that he already has with Davante Adams, I think it's just going to be another repeat. I think he's going to be a number 2 overall for sure.
So let me give you guys my argument as to why I have our number 3 guys, my number 2 here. So I love Devontae Adams. I think he's a fantastic wide receiver. Obviously, I love Aaron Rodgers. I
There
think
it is.
he's one of the
Thank
best
you.
quarterbacks in the game. Obviously, the argument for Devontae Adams is, look, there's nobody else there for Aaron Rodgers to throw the ball to. And why that is a huge argument to why you expect high production. It's also can be a drawback as well. You should expect double teams. You should expect all defenses to focus in on Devontae Adams, things of that nature. Our number 3 guy, who I have as my number 2, is Julio. So listen to the finishes that Devontae Adams has. We have him as our wide receiver number 2. He's coming off the board as wide receiver number 2. He's never finished as a wide receiver number 2. His finishes over the last 5 years are 24, 3, 14, 8, and 72. There's only one finish inside the top 5. So, I mean, it's a riskier pick to me than Julio is. I mean, Julio has been the face of consistency over the last 5 years. Listen to these finishes for Julio. Number 3 last year, number 5 the year before, number 4 the year before, number 6 in 2016, and number 2 in 2015. He hasn't finished outside the top 6 since 2015. Like, that's what I mean.
Okay.
If you're drafting a wide receiver, if you're going to take a wide receiver in the first round or the first couple picks of the second round, I think you're a safer pick going with Julio. The only argument that can be made against him is, okay, he's getting older. That didn't stop him last year. Calvin Ridley, the young guy coming up. I mean, I think Calvin Ridley's great, but I mean, Calvin Ridley was number 11 or no,
You're
number
calling
20
for his emergence. Okay.
25 last year. He finished 25th last year to Julio's 3rd. So I don't think that Julio's production goes down. I think Julio's a safer pick than Devontae Adams is. That's why I have Julio at number 2. Ashton, you have him at 3. Jacob at 4. He's our consensus number 3 wide receiver. Do y'all have any other concerns outside of a little bit of age? Calvin Ridley coming in the backside.
He's a little bit older, a lot of usage, but really the emergence of Calvin Ridley is what worries me, and also the arrival of Todd Gurley there. I think he'll have more receptions than Devonta Freeman did, but I mean, 3 and 4. I mean, these guys are going to be elite. He's a little bit older. He might lose a step. If not, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him number 3, number 2 again. So it's kind of just looking at what else is going on around them and not really like the players themselves on what's just sliding down 1 spot or 2 spot. But if you get either any of these guys really that we're going to talk about here in the top 5, you should feel very good about your wide receiver 1 going into these drafts.
Yeah, I'm just not as concerned about his age as other people are.
You're actually the lowest on him, so you have the most explaining to do.
But I'm just not concerned about his age. I'm not concerned about his age. I'm not concerned about Calvin Ridley sneaking up and taking a huge chunk of targets from him. I think he is a consistent play. I think at worst he's a top 3, even when he's dealing with some of those injuries. I think he's had ankle injuries and foot injuries in the past. But
all he needs is some touchdowns.
Yeah, that's my biggest concerns. He needs to be a bigger red zone target, and I think he has a chance of amping that up this year. But it is what it is. With Hayden Hurst coming in, Todd Gurley, I don't know how much Todd Gurley is going to be in the passing game, but and I do think Calvin Ridley is going to sneak up, but I don't think it's going to be a tremendous hit towards Julio Jones targets. So I think he's just going to be consistent. I think he's going to leverage out at that 3 spot, maybe 3 to 5, but he has the potential. I mean, the ceiling is high in Julio Jones. It always has been, but I don't see him emerging at 2 or 1. So unless something crazy happens in Hotlanta, but I'm not predicting that.
Fair enough. The next guy who we have at number 4 overall, Ashton has him at 3. Jacob has him at 3. Ashton and I have him at 4. A little bit more of a home run hitter, kind of a different style of wide receiver than maybe these first 3 guys. Tyreek Hill, the Kansas City Chiefs, has been, Patrick Mahomes' home run hitter the last few years now, where Kelsey is more that guy. He's going to get more of the receptions. Jacob, why do you have Tyreek Hill at number 3 ahead of Julio?
It's really the opportunity that he's going to have with Patrick Mahomes. That high-powered offense is going to be dominating all year long, and we've seen it in the past few years. Patty Mahomes was down a few games last year. Tyreek, I think he missed a couple games.
Yeah, he played 12 games last year. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is based on him playing 16 games. Okay. I don't have his injury, I should have his injury risk built in, but it's not really on this. If he plays a full season with full on Patty Mahomes, I could definitely see him being top 3. He could be number 1, honestly. That wouldn't surprise me either. Like I said, these top 5 guys, man, it's like some guys are a little bit more consistent, but Tyreek Hill is going to win you weeks. He's going to go off, and he's going to go off often. So that's kind of why I've got him here at 3. He can run he runs the deep routes. He can take a screen to the house easily. So I think he can kind of really just turn on the dime there, and he's the cheetah. Very fast.
He is super fast. I don't know about opportunity. I mean,
Sammy Watkins, really?
Cole Hartman.
You never know. Yeah,
Mecole Hardman's a touchdown once every 5 games. Like
Mecole Hardman's got
1 touchdown.
He's got speed and he's got separation too, and he's a bigger target. I think what was it? Tyreek Hill only averaged like 7.4 targets per game last season.
That's all I needed, baby.
Devontae Adams was 10. I think Julio Jones was 11. Or I had that mixed up. Julio Jones was 10. Devontae Adams had 11 targets per game. I don't know. I mean, and I can see Kansas City running the ball a lot too this year.
Yeah, right.
Just
With rookie, you think they're just going to run it in the ground with the rookie? Come on,
dude. Reed is
they're gonna
known
take care
for
of him, man.
just watch. So
Yeah, I know.
I don't see like there being a massive imbalance with targets leaning towards Tyreek Hill this year in Kansas City. Will he get targets for sure? Absolutely. I mean, he'll still be their number 1 receiver, but he's fast. You got that right. He's a playmaker, and they use him at that, but I don't see him taking the highlight off of Patty Mahomes to spread the ball out from other targets. So
yeah, I mean, I guess it's fair to say his value isn't based on volume. It's just the opportunity that he does have. They're going to be scoring all the time, is what I mean.
Absolutely.
Like,
when he gets when he gets the
have as
ball,
many targets as everyone else. But if he gets,
I
the
get
ball
what
in
you're
his
saying.
hands, yeah.
He's a playmaker and he makes it happen.
But he's also injury
Right.
prone, so that happens because he's so fast.
Stephen, why do you
Your
have
thoughts?
him at 4?
So for me, I think Tyreek Hill is the riskiest wide receiver 1 to take. I think, especially if you're playing in a half point or a full point PPR league, I think Tyreek Hill's value is extremely diminished just because he's not that 100 reception a season guy. When I'm looking for my wide receiver 1, I want that guy who's going to get 100 plus receptions. I want Michael Thomas, Julio, DeAndre Hopkins. I want one of those guys who I know is getting the production year in and year out. Tyreek Hill is going to give you monster games every now and again, but he's also going to disappear on you and give you 5 points and below games every once in a while too. And I can't have that as my wide receiver 1. I need more consistency. I don't want a guy who's going to give me ups and downs week in and week out. And Tyreek Hill is not even the number 1 receiving option on that team. Travis Kelce is the guy there. Like, he's the guy who Patrick Mahomes is looking at every play. So that's why Tyreek Hill is a bigger risk for me. If Tyreek Hill is the top receiver on the board, it scares me. I look more towards a running back if I still see Tyreek Hill on the board. So for me, I'm probably not personally drafting Tyreek Hill. I still have him as my wide receiver 4, just based on the fact that, I mean, he's probably the best in the game in terms of breaking away a long, deep ball. And you have Patrick Mahomes just airing it out to him. So he can give you those wide receiver overall number 1 weeks, but I don't see the upside there for him to be wide receiver 1 on the season. So that's why I think his range of outcomes is a little bit broader. He also has some off the field issues. And
I forgot about that.
You had some injuries last year. So Tyreek Hill's a little bit of a riskier play for me. I'm not as confident on him as some of these other guys that I just spoke about. But let's jump into the next guy. I think this is going to be another interesting discussion. actually have a tie for our wide receiver number 5, but we'll start it off with Chris Godwin. Got a new quarterback with Tom Brady, TB12. Do you think Tom Brady is a positive thing for Chris Godwin, or do you think it's a negative? Do you think it kind of stays where it is? What are
Tom
y'all's
Brady
thoughts?
loves a slot receiver, and that's exactly what Godwin excels at. So I think that connection is going to be instant. And Godwin is upcoming. Last year, obviously, he broke out, and I think he's just gonna. I think he's gonna overtake Evans. You know, Evans more of a deep threat, and I think that connection is really just going to be very fruitful. I'm surprised Ashton doesn't have him ranked higher due to his love for Tom Brady and everything that's going down in Tampa Bay. But I mean, last year he was just outrageously good. I know that he had Jameis slinging it, but Tom Brady's going to be a little bit more accurate. And yeah, I think he's going to be just fine here.
I might have him a little lower than he
Thank
should
you.
be, but I can articulate kind of my concern about that. Yes, he had a tremendous year last year. He only finished at number 2 in slot behind Cooper Kupp. And
14 games.
It was only by 15 yards or something like that that he finished behind Cooper Kupp. I think he is going to be utilized tremendously by Brady in the slot, throwing through the middle. But the argument there is I do see Tom Brady kind of looking at some deeper routes this year to kind of show off. I mean, essentially, I think he still wants to show his ability to throw deep passes. I think he's going to target Mike Evans more. I think he's going to target Rob Gronkowski more than anticipated. And I think they're going to run the ball a lot too and do some screen passes, screen plays, and utilize that as well to kind of get downfield. And I think once they're downfield, he's going to be targeting the bigger targets. While Chris Godwin is going to be a massive upside in his playmaking, I see him being more leveraged towards middle and late, well, early mid-season, where I think he's going to be more consistent to a groove of the play scheme and passing scheme. But I think early games, I think Tom's going to come out slinging the ball, and I think you're going to see him while his arm's still fresh in the season, throwing some deeper passes and looking towards the sidelines. So I can see once the stiffness starts to come in, fewer games in, I think you're going to see him shift a little bit more towards Chris Godwin, but that's why I have him at 7.
Yeah, I mean, I still have a lot of question marks about the Tampa Bay offense. I don't know what they're going to come out and do. I don't know, with Tom Brady in a new offense under a new coach, is Bruce Arians going to rely on Tom Brady to be just an all-around passing quarterback, or is he
Yes.
going to ask Tom Brady to be a game manager and win
Right.
games?
I don't think he has to ask Tom Brady that. I think Tom's going to throw the ball a lot. They're going to air it out a lot this year. And I think it's just going to be a natural understanding that Tom's out there controlling the game flow. And I think it's just going to be a natural chemistry built between him and Arians. I don't think it's going to be
I think there's going to be some give and take.
I don't think it's going to be a bunch of headbutting.
I mean, I think
What
we've
else are
seen
you
in
going
the
to say there,
past-
Stefan?
What we've seen in the past is Bruce Arians has always been a very balanced offensive coach. He always, he doesn't ever pass it too much. Last season, we saw it a lot because I think they wanted to take advantage that Jameis has always had a great arm. He doesn't make the best decisions all the time, but he's always had a great arm. And you saw that last year. He had 1,100 more yards than Tom Brady did. So, I mean, I think they're obviously in different stages of their career. But I also think Chris Godwin is my most sure thing in that offense right now. I feel the most confident about Chris Godwin than I do about anybody else. I don't know what's going to happen with Tom Brady. I don't know what's going to happen
Close your ears,
with
Ashton.
Gronk or Mike Evans.
He said it.
I have no idea, but I think we've seen in the past that Tom Brady does love his slot wide receivers. We saw it with Julian Edelman. We saw it with Wes Welker. I think he loves to hit them underneath, do some short intermediate passes, and let them do the work, especially at his age now. I don't think he has the arm anymore to hit Gronk down the field. I don't think he has the arm to chuck it up to Mike Evans to go get it. So I think, he's going to rely on Chris Godwin, and I expect Chris Godwin to have a great year. And like you even said before, Jacob, I mean, Chris Godwin last year, he played 14 games and finishes the wide receiver number 2. So I expect another great season. I mean, he's going off the board as wide receiver number 6, which I think is a value based on what we saw last season. So Chris Godwin, I'm more confident about Godwin than I am about Tyreek Hill. So if I saw both them sitting there, I really honestly don't know which one I would choose. Next up on our list, who's tied with Chris Godwin in our rankings. We had both 5, 6, and 7, how we ranked them out here. But consensus number 5 for us, Kenny Golladay, the smooth music of Kenny Golladay.
Yes, sir.
Ashton, you have him at number 5. Above Chris Godwin, who we know you love that offense in Tampa Bay. Why is Kenny Golladay the receiver to go for you instead of Chris Godwin?
Well, he's made his way to number 1 receiver on that offense. I think a lot of my love for Kenny G goes towards my love with Matt Stafford. A lot of people are underestimating Matt Stafford's ability. And I think that just comes with the new trend of quarterbacks that are in the NFL, these mobile quarterbacks. Well, Matt's not going to be a mobile quarterback. He's still got a cannon of an arm. He's an awesome offensive leader, good clock manager. He knows how to read the defense. He's a great quarterback, and I think people underestimate him. I think he's had multiple seasons over 4,000 yards. I think he was slated to go over 4,000 last year, but he got hurt and was unfortunately taken out of the season. But I think he's going to come back and be strong this year, and I think he's going to light it up, and I think he's going to light it up with Kenny G. So I can see that being a bounce back year for Matt Stafford, which will ultimately put Kenny G in the highlight realm as well. So I just like their connection. I like their connection to Detroit.
Jared?
That's it. That's all I had to say about that.
Thank
so
you.
you guys can jump in.
No, I completely agree. And I love Kenny G. I think he's going to be just fine. Marvin Jones, obviously, always tends to find himself getting those touchdowns. So there's going to be some of those big games where Marvin Jones takes it all and Kenny Golladay won't get anything. But then there'll be the games where first, second play of the game, Kenny G is going to take a 50-yard touchdown to the house. So that'll make up for it. But there are some games where it's going to be a little up and down. But like Ashton was saying, I'm actually up on Matthew Stafford this year as well, and how productive he was before he went down last year. So I'm definitely in on Kenny G because he is so smooth.
Yeah, I like Kenny Golladay. I think he's gonna take another big step this year and have a great season again. But I mean, speaking of Marvin Jones a little bit, I think Marvin Jones is a huge value at where he's being drafted. When you look at their stats compared to each other,
Always.
they're so similar in terms of like the numbers that they actually put up. That is crazy that, Kenny Golladay is going as wide receiver 7 and Marvin Jones is going who knows where right now in terms of wide receivers. I know he's not going until at least the 6th or 7th round. So, I mean, you see last year he played 13. Marvin Jones played 13 games that had 62 receptions, while Kenny Golladay had 65 receptions on 16 games. So, I mean, I don't think it's a clear number 1, number 2 kind of situation. How in terms of how Matt Stafford sees it, I think he sees it as, those are his 2 guys. Whichever one
You're open.
looks better
Yeah.
at that play, he's going to hit. So, while I do love Kenny Golladay, I also love where Marvin Jones is going right now. So, if you can get either one of those guys, I think they're great picks to have. And I think Kenny Golladay, again, is another guy that you can trust week in and week out because he does have that just big playability. He's going to get you touchdowns. He's going to go over people. He's just super, super athletic. So, yeah, I mean, I love Kenny Golladay. We have him as our tied for wide receiver number 5, so doesn't get much better than that.
I can't believe he was that low on receptions.
Yeah.
He's the lowest in the top 15. He's got the lowest amount
Really?
of receptions.
Even for the guys that were injured?
I mean, Mike Evans, he only played 13 games. He had 67. He was the
What
next
about
one.
Adams and Hill? They were both injured last year.
Oh, okay. I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at like who finished that high.
Oh, I got
But
you.
no,
Based on
he
wide
still
receiver
had
reception
more.
team last year.
He still had more. Devontae Adams had 83 receptions. It's crazy. I didn't know that. I mean, that's 65 is low
Yep.
to be that high because he finished number 6 last year. So, but he had 11 touchdowns. He was one of only like 2 or 3 guys that had hit double-digit touchdowns, and he had some random David Blau throwing to him for a while. And so it kind of just shows you his ability.
Yeah. The crazy thing is Marvin Jones had 9 touchdowns last year on 13 games. So, I mean, both those guys are going to rack it up. They're going to be great options for you. So, yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with either one. Next up, our consensus wide receiver number 7. I'm the highest on him. I know you guys have a little bit more question marks, especially you, Jacob. DeAndre Hopkins. We have him as our wide receiver number 7. He's coming off the board as wide receiver number 5. He's made the move to Arizona, has a new quarterback throwing it to him with Kyler Murray. Jacob, is that kind of where your concern is about, how does he play with Kyler Murray compared to Deshaun Watson? What is your real concern here? Why do you have him the lowest as wide receiver 8 for you?
That is literally my only concern. It's not that they won't develop that connection. It's a shortened off season. They don't have a preseason. Most wide receivers moving to a new team, they do not fare well. History tells you they do not fare well in that first year or just the first set of games. And I think that's where DeAndre Hopkins is going to kind of slide in. I don't think he's just most wide receivers moving to a new team. I think it'll take him about maybe 4 or 5 games, and once that connection gets going, he's going to be just fine. But getting to that point, and that's the only thing that's going to bring him down. And I'm saying he's 8, and that's my concern. I could see him anywhere with the 5 to 8 range. I think he's normally been kind of around 5 his career. So that's really, that's the only concern for me. There's nothing else about his talent or anything like that.
Stefan, where would you have DeAndre Hopkins if he was still playing with Deshaun Watson?
I probably have him at 2.
You'd have him at 2. I definitely would have him in.
He'd be top 3.
I would put him at
4.
Probably 3. I'm not so worried about the connection with Kyler Murray. DeAndre Hopkins has played with worse quarterbacks than Kyler Murray in the past and has still been a go-to number 1 receiver. I think his talent will shine through more than a lack of chemistry for a first-year connection with Kyler Murray. And his competition is Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk.
Christian Kirk is good.
I'm not saying he's not, but he's not DeAndre Hopkins good. And I just think he's going to go into Arizona. I think he's going to do what he does, and he's going to create plays. He's going to create separation. He's going to let Kyler Murray have a solid target on his passing routes. So, I think he's going to see a drop in numbers. I think he's going to see a drop in targets, but I still think he's going to be in that second tier of wide receivers. So I think it's going to be an interesting year for them. And I think they're going to pass the ball a lot more than they were doing last year. I think I mentioned that before in previous shows, but I think they're leaning more towards the passing game this year than before.
Stefan, you've got some explaining to do, Mr. 5.
I don't think I have any explaining to do. I'm looking at my rankings now, and I'm kind of wishing that I had put him over Tyreek Hill at number 4. For me, I think
it's not too late. You can change it.
I think an argument
they're in stone.
Can easily be made that DeAndre Hopkins is possibly the most talented wide receiver in the NFL. He's in his prime. The guy is an absolute beast. Don't forget the last 2 years, he's been coming off the board as the wide receiver number 1 in drafts. He finished last year number 5, but the year before he finished number 2, number 1 in 2017. He had a down year in 2018 at 29. He was injured on and off the field. And then the year before that, he was number 4. So, he's been in the top 5 the last 4 out of 5 years. So, the fact that he's being drafted as wide receiver 5, it's still – we've been doing mock drafts, and there's been times when there's been Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, and Hopkins on the board, and I'm taking Hopkins just based on the fact that I know Hopkins is going to be a 100-plus reception guy.
Do you trust Kyler, though? That's my question. Do you trust Kyler that much?
I have no problem with Kyler.
His second year quarterback.
Take a huge step forward in his second year. That's usually when you do see those big quarterbacks take that step forward.
Like Baker Mayfield.
you typically see, those guys who are going to be
Yeah, I know.
elite
I
quarterbacks
totally
take
understand.
that step forward in year two. I love the offense and how they keep things so quick, and I think Hopkins is going to thrive in that offense. So for me, I don't have any doubts with DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's going to be a super consistent. Like I was saying earlier, I love taking wide receiver ones who are going to be 100+ reception guys, just because I know they have like just built-in value on them.
Yeah,
As opposed
consistency for
to
sure.
Tyreek Hill and Kenny Galladay, who aren't going to get, the 100+ receptions, but are going to be huge home run hitters. Because I think
Right.
DeAndre Hopkins brings it all. Like he can catch a 60-yard bomb, but he can also catch, a slant across the field and take it to the house. So I love DeAndre Hopkins. I am the highest on him at 5. Again, I can make the argument that he should be at number 4 for me. But yeah, I'm really excited to see DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's a value right now in drafts, and don't see a wide range of outcomes for him. I see him finishing as a top 5 wide receiver once again this year. Next up, a guy that comes with a little bit more question marks. We've seen him be absolutely elite, and we've seen him just not be able to stay on the field. Cooper Kupp, the little man,
Little Cooper Cup.
for the LA Rams. Cooper Kupp, we have him as 8, 9, and 10 across the board. Ashton at 8, Jacob at 9, and myself at 10. What are y'all's thoughts on Cooper Kupp? Why is it that, we are a little bit more dispersed on where we have him ranked? What do you guys see as kind of his range of outcomes this year?
Well, last year was just a tough year for him. I mean, he started off really hot in the first, 8 games? First 8 games he was
Last year was his best year so
finished
far.
number
He finished
4.
number 4.
And I think it could have been a lot better. I know what you're saying, Ashton.
Yeah, but through 8 games, he was tallying 58 receptions for 792 yards and 5 touchdowns. Then he fell off and finished.
He ghosted us for a little bit.
Yeah,
I think he was a little bit injured.
and
then Bobby Woods out there. And then the whole team kind of fell apart for a little while there.
because
It wasn't his fault, okay?
Jared Goff couldn't not get sacked every other play. So
Yeah, their O-line is doo-doo.
well, they've made some improvements this year, right? So
No, they haven't done like – I mean, they did
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
drafting, but yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah,
Continue.
I think it's going to be a better season for them offensively this year. I mean, and I can see Coop emerging back again as a top slot wide receiver. So I like Cooper Kupp. I've always liked Cooper Kupp. I just think he's a talented playmaker. My concern with that, it comes with the offensive line and Jared Goff and his decisions. And I mean, he's just not.
Are you
he's not-
concerned about Robert Woods at all?
Uh,
Tight ends they're going to try to throw out there a little bit more this year?
No, I mean Cooper scored 21 receiving touchdowns in 39 games. Woods has 25 receiving touchdowns out of 100 career games.
Look at his – okay, come on, man. That's just – you ain't got to do it like that to
I'm
Bobby
just-
Woods.
No, I think Woods is great. I mean, I have
Yeah.
Woods like right behind Cooper Kupp, but
Cup is definitely a touchdown machine.
yeah, I think Cooper's. I mean, Woods is consistent. He's just a consistent play.
Right. He's going to get you your 10 points, but
But
Cup's
when-
going to throw in those TDs.
Right. When Jeff has that hot hand with Cooper Kupp, he's a go-to, and I just think he's a solid wide receiver to have in your fantasy team. I mean, if I try to snag him each year, just because I think he's consistent and he's so touchdown driven, but last year towards the end of the season just scared me with the Rams, but hopefully this year will be better.
Yeah, I mean, he did have 5 touchdowns. He had a touchdown in each game the last 5 games of the season. But if you look at it, his yardage was down. I mean, what was it 4 of the first 5 games he had over 100 yard each game.
That's what I'm saying. The yards
It was
plus
about
the
5 out of
touchdowns.
6 games in the middle of the season where he was just not there. It was crazy. He even goosed on receptions one game.
Yeah, I know. I played him. So
I'm so sorry.
yeah, but when he's just touchdown dependent, when he's not getting those yards attached to it, it makes me nervous. But when he's getting the targets and the touchdowns, I mean, he's incredible. It's a great receiver to have on your team. I hope that consistency comes back and just stays solid.
And he was coming back. Was it last year that he came back from the injury, Stefan?
Yeah, yeah. The season before, I don't think I think he only
Because
played
a lot of
8
people are
games
saying
or so.
he might have came back too fast and just like pushed it too hard, and then middle of the season, oh, I'm falling apart. So let me just hang out on the sidelines. I'll be a little distraction for Bobby Woods. But what do you think, Stefan?
Yeah, so I mean, again, I think we all are referring into Robert Woods as kind of that question mark with Cooper Cup. I think that there is a concern with Robert Woods and who actually is the wide receiver one there for LA. And I think you kind of see it, it kind of changes game in and game out. You see Robert Woods have a huge game, and you see Cooper Cup have a big game. But I mean, based on their ADPs, do you think Cooper Cup
Woods is the value.
is worth it? I mean, because right now Cooper Cup is the 16th wide receiver off the board, number 39 overall, where Robert Woods is the 23rd wide receiver off the board, 57th overall. So you can get him, 18 picks later.
For like 36 points is the difference from last year.
Yeah, so you make the stretch for.
You got to think about the touchdowns because Robert Woods. Even to your point, like Robert Woods is not going to have 2 touchdowns again this year. Like that was ridiculous. So it's going to take away from Cup more than likely and slide Woods up a little bit more, and where he's going in the drafts definitely provide you value as well. So that definitely makes sense.
Yeah. So let me give you guys a little statistical breakdown, and let me see what you guys think in terms of receivers that you would take here.
Okay.
Over the last 2 seasons, here's 2 wide receivers for you. One is Cooper Cup. I'll give you Cooper Cup stats first. Cooper Cup played in 24 games over the last 2 seasons, 16 last year, and 8 the year before. He had 1,727 yards and 16 touchdowns on 134 receptions. Okay? I can break them back down for you if you have any more questions as I go over the next receiver.
Calculating, no biggie.
The next wide receiver has played 31 games over the last 2 years, so he missed 1 game over the last 2 years. He has 2,353 yards compared to Cooper Cup's 1,727 yards. So almost 630 more yards. He has 8 touchdowns as compared to Cooper Cup's 16 touchdowns.
Half. Oof.
All right. And then he has 176 receptions compared to Cooper Cup's 134 receptions. So 42 more receptions.
I'd like to know the yards per game spread if you had that.
Right. I mean, I can give you the yard per game spread, but I mean, you got to bake in the part of Cooper Cup is that, he does get injured. He's only played 1 full season since he's been in the league. So, I mean, that kind of gives it up to you there.
Plus, I was told there wouldn't be any math. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's like
based on those stats I just gave you, based on those 2 stats I just gave you, who would you pick out of those receivers?
You said the second player had 8 touchdowns?
Half the touchdowns.
630 more yards, half the touchdowns, and 42 more receptions. And 8 more games played.
Do you think if I asked the second player to catch more touchdowns, he would?
I mean, you have to know the guy personally to ask that question. But out of those 2, which one would interest you more?
I mean, I like consistency, but it does depend on my team makeup.
Sure.
Like if you have the option and where you draft them. But yeah, I think I want that more. I want that consistency, and I know that guy's going to be on the field for me. Yeah, that's I think I would take the number 2.
Yeah, value and opportunity. I think. I mean, they can turn around those targets and make more touchdowns. Then 100% the number 2 guy. Who's the number 2 guy?
Well, number 2 guy is Robert Woods. So
well, shoot, there goes the yard.
That makes sense though. I mean, if you can average those opportunities into targets that lead to touchdowns, then 100%. But the mix up with that is like you said, Jacob, the team makeup. I want to know like who else is on the field, who are the other targets, what's the game plan for this season. You know what I mean? There's a lot that goes into that, but. Yeah, you made a point there. Robert Woods could easily be the number 1 receiver in LA. It's just
gotta get those touchdowns up.
Got to get the touchdowns
I'll
Yeah.
ask him. I'll shoot him a text.
And Robert Woods is someone we'll talk more about in our next episode. He is in our top 24 wide receivers. So we'll get into more detail of Robert Woods in the next episode. But let's jump into our next wide receiver. He is our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, ninth receiver on our board. Amari Cooper. Jacob, I know me and you are Cowboys fans. You have him at
Homers.
7, and I have him at 12. So we are a little bit more, widely spread than I expect us to be. I know you're a little higher up on Amari Cooper than I am. But yeah, give me. Actually, I'm going to give you guys a little would you rather real quick too before we jump into Amari Cooper. All right,
Okay.
here we go. Last year's stats for
He's
Amari
so
Cooper:
excited.
79 receptions on 119 targets. I'll give you those stats first. The second guy
Thank
had
you.
72 receptions on 128 targets. Okay. Amari Cooper had 1,189 yards. Player B had 1,202 yards. Amari Cooper had 8 touchdowns. Player B had 9 touchdowns. So you get 1 more touchdown, about 13 more yards, and 7 less receptions on player B. Do you guys want to take a guess on who player B is first?
I know these statistics.
Who is it?
Who's
It's
player B?
Devontae Parker.
It is Devontae Parker.
People
So-
are sleeping on Devontae Parker.
Devontae Parker is currently wide receiver number 21 off the board. Do you know where Devontae Parker finished last year, Ashton?
Where'd he finish, Stefan?
Wide receiver 7, Ashton. Do you think that's a little disrespectful to Devontae Parker?
No.
Stefan,
It's
do you like
disrespect
Devontae
to
Parker?
the Miami Dolphins.
Ashton, do you know where Amari Cooper finished last year?
Oh, where'd he finish, Stefan?
Wide receiver 9. Okay, so I mean, here's the question mark here. I think Amari Cooper's great. I think you're going to have huge games with Amari Cooper, just like you have with Tyreek Hill. He's going to give you those wide receiver number 1 weeks where he just blows up. Last year against, 2 years ago against the Redskins, where he had 3 touchdowns and
Remember
a
that,
huge
Ashton?
game. One
I don't.
of
The
one of
Washington
his
football
first-
team.
One of his first
Doesn't ring a
games
bell.
with the Cowboys. Just an absolute monster games. But then he's also going to disappear on you and just like not even come on the field sometimes, which makes no sense.
Magic Man.
So again, I mean, it goes back to my argument before. If I'm going to take one of these top wide receivers, I want a guy who's going to be on the field. I want a guy who's going to be the clear number 1. And there's so many weapons in Dallas. You're going to have Michael Gallup, who again is someone just like the Cooper Cup, Robert Woods discussion that, he's such a bigger value so far down the board. And you also have CeeDee Lamb, who is, with all news coming in, he's making a huge rapport with Dak,
Great
and
rapport with Dak.
he's having a great training camp so far. So Amari Cooper has a big question mark on his head for me. And I mean, I love Amari Cooper, and we paid him big money, so I would expect him to
Yeah.
have a big year.
That's kind of where I think the Cowboys believe in Amari Cooper. They paid up to get him, first round pick. Was it just 1 or 2? I
Give
can't
him one-
remember.
Yeah, give him one.
Yeah.
Give him $100 million. Like,
Yeah, just signed him $100 million. Last year, I think the stats are kind of a little bit fluky based on, Stefan, you said he disappeared. He was on the field, but he literally was not healthy. There was whispers anyway that he was essentially a diversion for Michael Gallup and everyone else that was on the field. And it was, if you watch those games, like me and Stefan sat there and watched those games, he didn't look completely right after, like, the way he started the season. I think he was wide receiver 3 through like the first 8 or 10 games. I mean, it was unreal. So the questions of, is there going to be targets to go around? Yes, there's going to be targets to go around. Jason Witten's gone. Randall Cobb's gone. Yeah, we added CeeDee Lamb in the draft. Great. Blake Jarwin's going to come in. But those guys are, Blake Jarwin's year 2 or 3, I believe, and CeeDee Lamb's his first year in the NFL. He's not just going to – he can have great rapport, but he hasn't been on the NFL field to actually do it. So I think Amari Cooper is definitely going to lead this wide receiver crew. And I think he's going to have a better year this year than he did last year. And that's why I've got him this high. I mean, they're going to be a great team. Definitely better than the Washington football team, obviously. They're going to let Dak air it out. We've got, what's the offensive coordinator's name right now? Forgetting it.
Kellen Moore.
Kellen Moore. He's back. He's back, and he's calling all the plays. So I'm excited, and I don't think there's any doubt in my mind. As long as he's healthy and not out there being a diversion and doing his little Houdini act, I think he can definitely be this high on a high-powered offense like the Cowboys team.
Yeah, I just trust his experience as a wide receiver. I think he's gonna be an example to CeeDee Lamb, who's coming in. I think CeeDee Lamb's going to take some targets from him, but I can see CeeDee Lamb emerging later in the season. But I think there's just a connection between Dak and Amari that was pretty recognizable last season, unfortunately.
Since he's come over, man, it was just like instant, you know.
It's like every play that I watched where I was like, oh, they're gonna blow it. They're gonna blow it. Somehow Amari Cooper just sneaks open on the sideline and Dak just drills him with a solid pass, and next thing you know, he just makes a psych out cut and drills it into the touchdown. I just, as much as I hate it, he's a good receiver, and there's a sweet connection between him and Dak. So, and I have Dak at 3. I got to look at, you know,
who he's throwing to. That's
who
right.
he's throwing to, and that's Amari, number 1 receiver.
What do you think, Stefan? I see that you hate him.
No, I mean, I think I already made kind of my my point there. I think, you know, there's just, for me, it's just a lot of question marks. There's a lot of weapons there. Yeah. I don't want a guy who's going to disappear, you know, in a couple weeks. It's just not what I'm looking for. But, you know, Amari Cooper's still going to have fantastic games. He's still going to be a wide receiver 1. So no issue with him being as a top 12 wide receiver. I think just wide receiver 7 is a little rich for my blood, but he is going off the board as a wide receiver 11. So I don't think that's too bad.
You would take him there.
Yeah. No problem there. Next up on our list, DJ Moore, getting a new quarterback and Teddy Bridgewater. A lot of people are really high on DJ Moore this year, thinking he's going to be kind of that breakout candidate that we saw Chris Godwin turn into last year. A lot of people kind of called out Chris Godwin when we were going in the draft season as being that guy who you can kind of find that super value in and be an all-star. And we saw that kind of develop. But they're saying DJ Moore is going to be that kind of replica this season. I have him the highest at wide receiver number 9. You guys at 12 and 10. I think the Teddy Bridgewater connection, I mean, he finished as wide receiver number 18 last year. With a lot of question marks at quarterback.
Yeah, for sure.
I think Teddy Bridgewater is an upgrade compared to what he had last year. So a lot of people are saying you don't know what you're going to get with Teddy Bridgewater. You saw him with the Saints last year. They didn't really throw the ball, all these kind of things. But I think Teddy Bridgewater has been in the NFL for quite some time. And, you know, he was a great quarterback in college. He was drafted really highly. He was drafted to be a great NFL quarterback. Right. So, I mean, I have no problems with Teddy Bridgewater coming into Carolina. I think DJ Moore is going to break out, going to have a great season. He's coming off the board as wide receiver 14. I have him at number 9. So, yeah, I mean, DJ Moore to me, I think is someone that I think is going to be consistent week in and week out and going to give great numbers this year. What do you guys think of DJ Moore with Teddy?
Yeah, so I'm pretty close to you, Stefan. You got him at 9. I think I have him at 10. Yeah, and he broke out big last year, and he showed what he could do with a really jacked up QB room. So it's just another one of those guys, kind of like Kenny G. They roll with the punches, and DJ Moore was drafted to be the guy, and he's coming into his own. And this year, I don't think it's going to be any different. Because he can succeed anywhere. That's why, Stefan's point, Teddy Bridgewater doesn't really matter that much as long as he's throwing him the ball with accurate passes, which is something he's known for. Maybe not throwing it as deep, but that's Robbie Anderson's issue that he's going to have to deal with. And I don't care about that issue because no one's taking Robbie Anderson. I believe that DJ Moore is definitely going to have the lion's share there. And Teddy Bridgewater, a couple question marks. You know, obviously the health he's played 1 full season, but he stepped in when he needed to last year. It was kind of game manager mode, but managing game, even if it is for a great team like the Saints, I think he was 5-1 when as a starter, or 5-0, something like that. So, you know, he's got it. He was drafted for it. They let him air it out with Matt Rule. I think they'll be fine. And DJ Moore, like I said, he's just extraordinary talent. So that's kind of where I'm looking at him.
I have him at 12. I could probably slot him up a space or two. I'm
After
just,
my rousing speech,
yeah, you really reeled me in.
I knew I'd get you, boy.
But I'm just a little nervous with Carolina's offense this year. I think they're going to be consistent with relying on Christian McCaffrey a lot. Plus, they brought in Robbie Anderson. I don't see them leaning heavily on Robbie Anderson this year, but I think it is going to take away some targets. With Teddy Bridgewater, he's not known to be a deep passer, so I'm not too concerned with that. But that I could be surprised this season if they decide to air it out a little bit deeper than maybe Teddy showed last year with New Orleans. So I think a lot of that was under restriction too. I think they just wanted to be smart in their playmaking this year. I could see them shifting
being
up a little
behind
bit
in games.
Yeah,
so that'll even bump those numbers up even more. I think they're going to be really bad this year. What do you think, Stephen? Think they're going to be bad?
I don't think they're going to be bad. I think they're going to be
New regime,
middle of the pack team. But I think DJ Moore is going to be the sure thing on that team.
He's a phenomenal player. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah, I think he's another guy like Robert Woods who, if he increases those touchdowns, he had 4 touchdowns last year, but he had 1,100 plus yards. So if he can get those touchdowns up, I mean, he's easily, in that top 10 discussion. So, him coming off the board as wide receiver 14, had a wide receiver 18 finish last year. I think he's a fantastic pickup. Second to last, wide receiver number 11 is Mike Evans. And, it's kind of hard looking at Mike Evans coming in at 11 just based on what he's done since he's been in the NFL. He's never had less than 1,000-yard season. It's kind of hard to slip Mike Evans down to wide receiver 11. I have him all the way at 14. He finished last year as wide receiver number 12. But my questions aren't really about Mike Evans and his talent. My questions are more about Tom Brady and what that offense is going to do this year. So that's why I think Mike Evans is kind of my question mark. Him and Gronk, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know how their production is going to kind of break out. I'm more confident with Chris Godwin. I just think he's an easier target for Tom Brady to find at this point in his career. So that's why I have a little bit less faith in Mike Evans. What about you guys?
Go ahead, Tampa Bay boy.
I've been watching a lot of film from Tampa with Brady throwing to Mike Evans, and
I'm sure
it doesn't look bad. I just think he's going to be target dependent. I mean, touchdown dependent with his value. I think he definitely could be in that top 11, top 12 slot there. I think it's going to rely on touchdowns. So I think if he can be a red zone target for Tom Brady, which, his size and his agility, I think that's going to be
dude, he's 6'5". Oh my gosh. I did not know he was that big.
Yeah, he's a big boy. And plus with Gronk in the mix too, being a distraction from other plays, I think it's going to open it up even more. So, but I do see an opportunity for Brady to spread the ball out, surprisingly, to other players too that, aren't going to be the number one go-to to defend each game. So I think it's going to be more situational, but I think Mike Evans is going to take advantage of every opportunity he has to get more touchdowns this year. And he had 8 last year. So, and he did that with Winston. And I think Brady's a better quarterback than Winston. So I just see it
like he's not good, man. He had the most yards in the NFL last year.
Yeah, he also had the most yards throwing to the other team.
You think Jameis Winston is a comparable quarterback to Tom Brady?
And fantasy value, 100%.
Fantasy value is different. We're not talking real life, Ashley.
Okay, well,
Jameis is a better fantasy quarterback than Tom Brady is. He's going to air the ball.
It's better for the wide receivers that he's throwing to. Right. You don't really want Jameis
say that after Tom Brady plays in Tampa.
You don't want Jameis Winston. He was quarterback 3 last year.
I'm just saying it's terrifying. You get heart attacks every 2 plays, and then he throws that pick. He has to every.
I'm just saying you have a more accurate quarterback and a better decision maker in Tom Brady, and I think you're going to see numbers rise.
Let me pile on that.
Go ahead, Jacob.
So I'm looking at Mike Evans and the targets. Like, I think this is going to be the best quarterback he's ever had. Obviously, Tom Brady's a little bit older, but still, like, I don't care. I'm looking at these stats, and it's like there's a discrepancy of like. So in 2015, okay, I'm just going to go back that far. He had 74 receptions, but he had 150 targets. Like, it's double, or like these targets are just not good targets. Last year, 67 receptions, 118 targets in 13 games too. So he only played 13 games last year and finished number 12. Obviously, the real issue here is Chris Godwin. And, you can't move Chris Godwin. We can't have Chris Godwin where we have him, and then just expect Mike Evans to be right there next to him. We took our chance. We picked who we thought would be higher, and Chris Godwin kind of fits the bill there with Tom Brady. So, I mean, I think Mike Evans, I think he's going at what? Where's he going, Stefan?
He's going as wide receiver number 8 right now.
Okay, I think that's a little crazy. I think going kind of around 12 is like where he fits in, kind of just where he finished last year. I think it's going to be more of the same if he stays healthier. I just don't see Tom Brady's throwing bombs. I mean, I know that's not all he does. He's on the outside, but Chris Godwin, I think that's the main issue. I'm not worried about old man Gronk or anything like that, but yeah, I mean, I think they're both going to have good seasons.
Fair enough. And
Go
to
Bucks.
wrap up our top 12, we have Adam Thielen coming off of back surgery, played 10 games last season, was wide receiver number 61. People are still giving him a lot of respect. He's coming off the board as ADP wide receiver 13. We have him as our wide receiver number 12. Let's see here. Who's highest on him? Ashton. Oh, no, Jacob, you have him at 11. Give us your breakdown on why Adam Thielen is top 12 wide receiver once again.
Mainly out of pure necessity. There's not much. I mean, okay, so the passing game's not huge out there in Minnesota anymore. Oh gosh, what does that sound? They're kind of running it more, and it's the offense is going through Dalvin Cook, but Stephon Diggs, he's gone, and I think that's when you have one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league in Kirk Cousins. I don't think there's any issue with being a top 12 wide receiver for fantasy. So, I mean, he's going to be taking all the targets. Justin Jefferson, they drafted, he's a rookie, and rookies he's not going to take that line share, and he's got to adjust and kind of get used to everything that's going on there. I think Kirk Cousins is really going to help Adam Thielen get to the top as long as he stays healthy. Obviously, that's the big question mark for him, I think. I don't think it's going to be targets and volume. So that's kind of why I've got him where I got him.
You don't think Justin Jefferson is going to take that Stephon Diggs spot?
No.
You don't?
Not as a rookie anyway. Maybe midway through the season he'll step up to the plate, but I think they're going to be running the ball pretty much all season.
Who's wide receiver 2? Is it BC? What's his name? BC Johnson?
Exactly. Doesn't matter.
Okay. Exactly.
That's the problem.
I think I'm the lowest on Thielen. I have him at 15. I'm just concerned about him being – he just had his birthday yesterday. He's 30 now, right? 30 or 31? Yeah, 30.
About 15 years younger than you.
Well, with the back injury, that kind of puts him right at my age, right? So I'm just concerned about his back injury. I think that's set up to cause more issues again this year if it tightens up, anything like that. And back injuries – guys, I'm gonna let you know when you get older, back injuries happen. You can sleep funny, doesn't take much, and then it will take you out. And he had a pretty serious back injury, so I'm just worried about his health and going into this season. I really like Adam Thielen. I think he's a tremendous wide receiver. I'm just concerned about his health going into it. So I think have him at 15 with a solid upside, a ceiling to reach top 12, top 10, potentially if Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings can air it out more. But I'm trying to play it smart.
Fair enough. I have him as my wide receiver number 13, which is his current ADP is wide receiver 13. I mean, obviously, look, he's going to have the chance to be the guy. Like we saw in 2018 and 2017, him just be dominant with Stephon Diggs there. He was wide receiver 7 in 2018 and wide receiver 10 in 2017. So we know he can do it with Kirk Cousins. We know that they have a good chemistry going. And yeah, I mean, if the only wide receiver to contend with him is the rookie and Justin Jefferson, I mean, the guy, Adam Thielen, has a great opportunity to be a top 12 wide receiver this year once again. I mean, the only risk with Adam Thielen is coming off the injury. How does he bounce back? Obviously, they're going to rely heavily on the run with Dalvin Cook. We saw that last year. Is they kind of want to key in and kind of let the run game be their offense. But they still have to throw the ball. You know, they're still going to be a relevant wide receiver on this team, and Adam Thielen should be that guy. So if you're willing to take the risk and see how he bounces back from the injury, Adam Thielen could be a steal, or he could be a huge disappointment. I think his range of outcomes is very wide this year.
For sure.
You know, he could completely disappear and get injured once again right out the butt, or he could be a top 10 wide receiver. So if you're willing to take that risk, Adam Thielen could be your guy. But that wraps it up for our top 12 wide receivers. We'll break down wide receiver 13 through 24 next time. But yeah, thanks guys. I think it was interesting hearing your takes on a couple of the guys, but glad I did. Now I understand where you're coming from.
No, you're not.
I still don't trust some of your picks. But, you know, that's
you don't believe us. That's fine.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, that wraps it up. Make sure to check us out on all of our social medias. If you have any questions that you want to ask, if you have any, anything about our wide receivers that we broke down today, or, you know, you kind of disagreed or agree with our picks, let us know. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as YouTube if you'd like to see our faces as we record. But make sure to check out our 13 through 24 episode next week. That's it for today, guys.
Drafts are coming up, everybody. Get ready.
Good luck.
Goodbye.